Okay, good evening, everyone. I will call this meeting to order. Now we know what we sound like. We know that the microphones work.
We're going to preach today.
So we will begin tonight with an invocation led by Councilor Lowry, and I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and then make a few opening remarks. Councilor Lowry?
Yes. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the liquid sunshine that you're bestowing upon us right now. We appreciate all that you do for us. We appreciate the fact that you are looking down on us. Please guide us in all the decisions that we make. Please look over our city, look over our leaders, look over our nation, look over our world. We pray that you will continue to bless us and look kindly on all that we do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please do. We have a fairly short agenda, and I have a fairly lengthy report, but I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. But we do have a lot going on in the city, and I wanted to make sure if y'all were in the loop and the public who has a chance to view this either in person or remotely has a chance to know some of the important things that are going on. First of all, we were pleased to recognize Veterans Day in the city this past weekend. Unfortunately, the program that we had planned, which we're very proud of because it had a lot of participation from the youth in our community and our schools, was not able to take place because of the weather event that caused the school district to call for an e-learning day. So we weren't able to proceed with that program, but we do want to take our time this evening to acknowledge our veterans and to thank all of them for their sacrifices and the sacrifices of their families. And those sacrifices may have been made on the battlefield or they may have been made at home, but we want to say as a city how grateful we are for their service. Many of you on council may have known this, but we do want to let the public know that we are now in the position of looking for a new city attorney. Our city attorney, Jenny Merck DuPont, who we just recently hired in July, has informed us that she's accepted a position as county attorney for the county of Lancaster. And we'll miss seeing Jenny, but we understand the needs of her family and the strain that travel was putting on her, and this seems to be a good fit for her and her career, and we wish her all the best in her new position. We've posted this position with the Municipal Association and on Indeed, and it's my understanding we've already received a number of responses from interested attorneys. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome anyone who is a member of the Lawrence County Bar, because it's my preference that we have somebody who is local and accessible. So if there are members of the Lawrence County Bar who are interested in applying for the position of city attorney, we would welcome those applications. Once we receive those, we'll sort of give them a once-over to see in terms of initial qualifications who might be a good fit. And then I'd like to bring those to both the applications and recommendations to council for their consideration. From an administrative standpoint, we have made a great stride this past week in adopting a new payroll system. And I know payroll may not sound like a very enticing, sexy sort of topic. But by adopting this new system, we have modernized and streamlined the way that the city does payroll. Our new system through ADP allows us to recruit employees directly through that platform for new positions. It allows us to onboard new employees more efficiently. It allows us to perform employee evaluations for existing employees, which is good from an accountability standpoint, and to be able to have a basis for awarding merit-based raises. It allows us to disseminate policies and procedures directly to employees through that platform. And one of the most interesting, exciting, good things for employees is that they'll be able to access information about their own time off and holiday pay and deductions and all those things, rather than having to direct those questions through the city clerk, who operates as our HR manager. Some of these things can just be handled by the employee on their own directly. So it gives the employee some additional latitude there. Finally, it brings us in line with what most private companies are doing. This is the old paper way of handling things is not wasn't designed for an organization of the size of the city of Laurens. It was just sort of a leftover practice, and by updating this, that brings us in line with one might expect an organization of our size to be doing. I'd like to bring to the public's attention that we have vacant building and rental registration notices going out soon to property owners of buildings which we believe may be vacant, and to landlords who own houses, rental houses within the city. We want to make sure that those individuals are aware of the requirements of the law and work with them to ensure that they're in compliance. So if you're a landlord or a rental housing owner, we ask that you take appropriate action to register your properties. And this registration is required but free the first year. But in order to make sure you're in compliance with the law, that is required. That follows up on an ordinance that we passed just this summer. The deadline for registration under the new ordinance is January 1st. We're working on a comprehensive plan as a city. This is required by law, and we're meeting that requirement. But we're trying to do the best job we possibly can, not merely just checking the box and saying that we did it, but truly doing a thorough process and seeking the input of our entire community. So meetings have begun for in-person listening sessions. We also have online surveys that are available, and we've received hundreds of responses to those surveys. So we welcome the additional feedback from those listening sessions and online surveys. We really want to hear from you. The next in-person session is coming up on Thursday at 8 a.m. at the Ridge and at 12 p.m. at the library. If you can't make any of these sessions in person and you would like to give input online, we would be happy to make links available to the online surveys on our city's social media and on the city website, thecityoflawrencesc.com. Now is the time for the public to be able to give their input. We want to hear from the public. I think I can speak for all of council. I hope I can in saying we don't want this to be a top-down comprehensive plan, but we want it to reflect the values of our community. But the only way we can effectively do that is to hear from them. So now's the time to let us know your desires and concerns, and we can take those into account when developing plans. We can't do anything about it when you post social media posts angry about it after the fact, after the plan's already been adopted. Now is the time to be heard. that takes us through sort of some of the administrative things going on. I'd like to give you some updates on facilities improvements. We are making progress on the police station. If you look just up the hill from here, both external and internal demolition is ongoing, clearing the way for new additions to be made to that building. Steel is on the way, and thankfully we've already gotten in bricks that will be needed for matching the exterior of the new additions to what is there, and we were able to find a matching material, so we should have a consistent look. We are also obviously not in City Hall. Just before we began our meeting, I was remarking that it just dawned on me that we will leave this place in May, June, and move into our new home. And we will be here until that time. And so that means that the City Council for the City of Laurens, unless something changes, will have met in City Hall for the last time. But we are excited to get to our new home, and it will be a very purpose-made facility, and I think will be a good option for the future. The renovations that are required at City Hall will transform what has been our council chambers into new office space. And the preparation for that's already underway. The reasoning for this is we are using our facilities more wisely. Rather than expanding the footprint of the city and building a new building or acquiring office space, we're able to meet the city's needs for staff space by using our existing footprint. And for the relatively inexpensive work that has to be done to convert the second floor into additional offices, that will greatly increase the efficiency of our operations. That will include 6 new offices and a new conference room space. We have accomplished the closing on the Hampton Street Holland Hill property. I have signed the deed to that in accordance with the ordinance passed by City Council. We accomplished the needs in the contract that City Council prioritized in their directions to me in that negotiation. That's part of the reason the closing has taken some time, is that we wanted to make sure that those safeguards, that construction didn't linger, were accomplished, and that if possible, that the property that belongs to Ms. Tamika Craig can be addressed with the proper property owner. That will pave the way for a new, sorely needed apartment housing complex. They will proceed with their plans, submit those to the Planning Commission, and then upon submission of those plans to the Planning Commission and approval by our Planning Commission, there is a limited period of time in which they have to begin substantial construction on the project. So with that said, that was the mandate I received from City Council. I wanted to respond to that in our negotiations, but I can tell you from speaking with them, they are anxious to move forward. So I look forward to that improvement. The other exciting part about that closing is that the proceeds that the city has received from the sale of that property will allow improvements to our existing recycling center by making additions to it, and that will be able to serve as our new headquarters for the Streets and Sanitation Department. Again, a very sorely needed improvement. By moving the headquarters of the Streets and Sanitation Department from what we affectionately or not so affectionately call the city barn to this new location, we're able to, again, make better use of our facilities by that existing building, adding on to it to provide more convenient access for citizens. They'll be able to drop off their recycling, but do so in a covered drive-through area, so it'll be more comfortable and convenient for people that look to use that facility. But it'll also bring parity between that city department and the other city departments. We spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort in focusing on the needs of the police department and fire department. And unfortunately, for many years, the can sort of got kicked down the road. Innocently, because of the money has to come from somewhere. But the upgrades to those facilities were overdue, and we're finally making good on our commitment to the Streets and Sanitation Department.
And may I have a question? Stop you right there.
Yes, ma'am.
And in doing that, you adding on to what's already there.
Yes, ma'am. So there'll be a maintenance area, so we'll be able to do more maintenance in-house in a sort of a city garage than we're able to do now. There'll be an additional enclosed area for storage for city Christmas decorations and stuff that we do for Squealing on the Square and that sort of thing. There'll be additional showers and bathrooms in the area, and that's an important point because we have men and women that work for the Streets and Sanitation Department. And in order to comply with the law, we don't need to have them sharing shower facilities. So this is something that we need to do, that they need, because they do a dirty job. They do nasty jobs that a lot of us would prefer not to do ourselves. And if they do those jobs first thing in the morning and they have something else to do in the latter part of the day, giving them an opportunity to take a quick rinse is just a matter of respect for the hard work that they do. So we'll also have a gated parking area that will provide the police department with some additional secure impound space if necessary. All in all, it provides a more centrally located location for that department, which hopefully should save on some fuel and other operational costs. And we believe that improvement to that facility will be an overall improvement to that part of the city of Lawrence. So we're excited about it, looking forward to that, and now through the sale of this property, we have the means to go about doing that.
I have another question too. Yes, are you going to look into getting the workers new uniforms?
We've been in discussions about uniforms with the city administrator, and we are certainly looking at ways to improve that. Yes, ma'am. Other facility upgrades include improvements to our technology resources. Previously, we were forced to rely on other law enforcement agencies to process certain kinds of electronic or digital evidence in investigating crimes. And that frequently led to months of delays in receiving that assistance from outside agencies. There's just because of the sheer volume of information that those agencies were having to process. But using our ARP funds, as designated by council, we've been able to acquire a new suite of electronic investigation tools that include software called Cellebrite, Leads Online, Cellhawk, and PinLink. And these softwares are able to break phone codes, to extract GPS data, to monitor databases for pawn shops and scrap yards. With this technology and this capability in-house, we can more easily and more quickly identify suspects who may be fencing stolen goods and committing other sorts of crimes. This is the kind of technology that was used to solve the Roma break-in downtown. But in that case, we had to rely on other agencies. Now, with this in-house, we can make those arrests more quickly. And hopefully, if we make arrests more quickly, we can prevent additional crime from happening.
What about the cameras? Community.
Let me come back to that, if I may. Let me make a note to come back to that.
I want to ask you something right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Since all this new technology that we're getting in with all this equipment and everything, do we have the right type of person that's certified to do this kind of stuff?
Yes, ma'am. This is something our new police chief has experience with, and this is a sort of turnkey system that our police are able to use. So, to my knowledge, it doesn't take any particular special certification to use. This is a force multiplier. We certainly want to be fully staffed. There's no question about that. But is it a wise use of resources to hire additional staff and have to pay employee benefits and retirement benefits and all those sorts of things for another person if we're able to use technology to increase our investigative capabilities? So this allows us to do more with what we already have. Ms. Miller, to your point, we are working with CPW and we've already installed additional cameras. We are looking at the best placement for future camera placement. Part of the comprehensive review process, comprehensive planning process, is to look and see what those capital improvement needs are and where they're best spent. Where we can sort of hit low-hanging fruit by working with DOT, for instance, to see where we have the worst problems with speeding, that kind of thing. That may be done without additional investment for us. But where we have neighborhood crime issues, some of this technology that we have implemented, that I've been speaking about, will help us also determine where the best placement for those cameras are because of the GPS technology that's included. So that's on the radar, it's in the works, we just haven't finalized implementation of that.
I have another question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Does that answer your question?
No, what I was gonna say, with this new technology, is it gonna take care of, when his kids don't go to school, and a lot of people don't have the service to do, is it gonna take care of people like that that's kind of on the edge of the city, and see a lot of them don't have that. Have that, well, they used to go out that far.
I'm not sure I have the answer to that, but I'm happy to follow up on that and get back with you. The goal of this is to make technology a part of the overall goal, which is the chief's goal, which is city council's goal, which is my goal of making the city of Lawrence one of the safest places to live in the state of South Carolina. And doing that in a way that's, we're working smarter rather than harder. Another area where we are addressing our facilities needs, or our environmental needs, is a cleanup of the Little River. During the winter, obviously there's less vegetation that's growing, it's dormant. And the city, with the proceeds of the sale of the property by the Ridge, was able to purchase equipment to use for demolition. But the good thing about this demolition equipment is it can be used for more than just demolition. So during the winter, we're taking a particular focus on looking at the Little River and to do what we can to clean up that area. So in the coming weeks, you will see equipment in the Little River that'll help clear overgrowth and buildups of erosion that have happened. We're seeking input from community partners like Clemson and other subject matter experts to determine ways that we can work smarter rather than harder. I am in favor of using vegetation and landscaping in smart ways so that we can reduce our ongoing annual maintenance needs by simply letting nature do what it is intended to do. There are beautiful decorative grasses and things like that that can control erosion and look nice growing along the bank that won't require a city crew to go out every 2 weeks during the summer and cut the banks, which in the end will not only be a greener solution, but it'll save the city money. Not every city has a river running through the middle of it, and those that do and that have thought about ways to creatively use their resources, Greenville being a prime example, have greatly benefited from their waterways. I have the strong belief that the Little River deserves to be utilized as something better than a stormwater drain, and by making better use of our resources and smart use of the resources that we have on hand, we hope to put that to better use. Likewise, we are blessed with a historic city center that is unlike almost any place in this state. There are 217 municipalities in this state, and Florence is one of a kind. We have, unfortunately, difficulties with uneven sidewalks, trees that have outgrown their gradings and have reached the end of their lifespan, problems with ADA accessibility, numerous problems that have to be fixed. They are not optional. And so if we have to do these things anyway, and we have been given money through the American Rescue Plan that is one-time money, it makes sense to make wise use of one-time investments. So to that end, we have begun work on that downtown streetscape, and you will see that proceed in the coming weeks. We have an anticipated completion date of December 12th, which is an incredibly fast turnaround. But that will provide new, more appropriate trees, and hopefully in the long term will provide a better canopy, just as we once had downtown with the oaks that used to surround the courthouse. We'll have better ADA accessibility and repairs to our sidewalks. We'll have a shared public dining and gathering space that was requested by our downtown businesses. And we'll do all that without sacrificing parking, because for the 18 spaces that are being turned into a plaza, we've replaced those with 26 spaces immediately adjacent.
I have a question while you're right there.
Yes, ma'am.
With the funds, now, what about our roads and the streets that the city owns? I haven't heard you say anything about going out to that way. And there's a lot of areas, like on my street or whatever, there have not ever been any sidewalks. Is there ever going to be any?
Yes, ma'am. So when we are looking at our overall needs, we've been trying to do that in concert with the South Carolina Department of Transportation. And had I not been so absent-minded at last month's meeting, I would have recognized the representative from DOT who is here to share with us the number of streets in the city that they are planning on paving. In addition to that, we have Madison Workman, who's been working very diligently on seeing areas where we have sidewalks, where we don't have sidewalks, and incorporating that as part of the overall analysis that needs to get done for the comprehensive plan. With the information that we put into that comprehensive plan and compile, we'll then have a basis for capital improvements. So when it comes to asking for TAP grants, which provide for transportation alternatives, when it comes to getting money from DOT appropriations and letting them know what our needs are to build sidewalks and paved roads, we'll be approaching that comprehensively. So those deal with state roads and the sidewalks that go alongside them. On the local level, we also work with our county transportation committee, and we met with them 2 weeks ago, as I recall, to begin the conversation about some of those needs, and just having those conversations is revealing that they're willing to open up and work with us. So that was a very long way of saying we're working on it, and they're the folks that we need to work with to get there, we're in conversation with and are supportive. All of these upgrades that I've been mentioning serve to improve the quality of life in the city. But you have to take the improvements to the city of Laurens in context. I want to show my thanks to the city of Laurens for the wisdom that you all have shown in prioritizing making these long overdue improvements and investing in the future, because it makes us competitive. Our neighbors aren't standing still. I think I mentioned at our last meeting, the city of Greer spent $26 million plus improving their downtown. And it does look good. When we have companies that are locating here, they look at what the quality of life is in that community. They want to know that the place where they're going to put their factory is a place where their workers want to live. So part of that involves a major piece of the puzzle that we have been missing, and that is a hotel.
That is what?
A hotel.
Before we get to that,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry. I want to get back to the sidewalks for 1 minute.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as sidewalks leading to the schools,
Yes, ma'am.
it's very much needed. Especially from the center and the, I'm gonna say Eyes White Boulevard, what used to be those sidewalks. And, going all the way up to Southern Street on that way. And I don't know how we look at that, but that is very much needed because, especially on Southern Street.
You're dead on, and one of the things I've specifically discussed with Madison is coming up with a plan for pedestrian transportation that allows for walkability to our communities, so that we're connecting neighborhoods like yours to other parts of the city, but that we're also connecting that neighborhood to schools. That is a central part of what we will be addressing in that capital improvements plan.
That's one, okay, thank you.
But I appreciate you giving the opportunity to call attention to that specific point. It's vital. Yeah.
Very, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So as we have moved forward with these things, we face a difficulty in that there are only so many things you can do when you don't have suitable lodging in a community. Personally, I can tell you when we were looking at the Palmetto Blues and Roots Music Festival, when we were looking at our July 3rd festival, when we have hosted important guests in the city, and we have to tell them that they have to go up the road to Simpsonville or down the road to Clinton, it's embarrassing. We have family members who visit their mamas and daddies back here in Lawrence who need a place to stay, and we don't have an adequate place to put them. We have these needs, and so beginning in 2019, we began the discussion of, do we have the numbers to support a hotel? And if so, what does the city of Lawrence need to bring to the table to make that happen? In 2019, we did a feasibility study. That was begun under former Mayor Stankus, and it was completed in my administration. At that time, the previous administration had looked at putting a hotel out on the 76 bypass beneath the neon lights of fast food restaurants. While I understand maybe some of that thinking, I looked at examples like the city of Newberry, where you have a nice hotel and it's centrally located to downtown, easily walkable to dining and local restaurants and shops. And that seemed to me to be a better path forward. But even still, as of 2019, it showed that we had adequate demand for a hotel. And then COVID happened. And everything was sort of thrown into well, not thrown into a tailspin. It was put on hold because there were bigger fish to fry.
That's the word.
So, as we began to have the pandemic resolved and our growth remained strong, City Administrator and I had numerous discussions about what the path forward for that would be. The one thing that was made very clear at the last, in the last conversations that we had in 2019 was, yes, you had the demand, but construction is expensive. And so in order to make this work, to make the finances work out, the city's going to have to just come to the table with land on a silver platter plus some other conglomeration of economic incentives, deferred tax payments and all that sort of thing in order to make the numbers work. Well, we wanted to see what the picture was today. So we contacted Jessica Junker, who had previously done the study. She came down to visit Lawrence, and we specifically had her look at the Truist building. The building that is owned by the city of Lawrence, that's now occupied on the second floor by the police department and on the first floor by Truist Bank. She was, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say, over the moon about the prospect of that building, because it is a beautiful building. If one were to have to build that building from scratch today and build it as a 38-room hotel, there is no way those numbers would work out. So we had an asset to bring to the table in terms of property. But if we were to do that, could we make the numbers work without giving any other additional incentives? Well, through her feasibility study, she found that the City of Lawrence currently has a need for 70-ish rooms, 75 rooms. And that particular building would be appropriate to house 38 rooms. So even if that building does in fact become a hotel, we still have additional demand, perhaps at different price points even. But seeing that we had the demand, we wanted to go about this the right way, in the fairest, most open way that we possibly could. So our city administrator put out a request for proposals through the Municipal Association, and we had an outstanding proposal, in my opinion, submitted by Mr. Gary Bailey for what he and I hope will be called the Hotel Lawrence. And I'd like to invite Mr. Bailey now to come say a word about what their proposal is, City Council.
Thanks, man. You want me to stay here? Is this good?
That works. That works for me.
Right. As you know, my wife and I just finished renovating the Bailey building. And when we saw the RFP, we had many thoughts, including, no way we're going to do that. We just finished this building. But as the mayor said, I read through the feasibility study, which was like 200 pages, and read through the RFP. And as you know, the third floor of the building is called the Palmetto Room, which we rent out. Has been very successful with that. And one thing we found as we rent that space is people wanting hotel space with it. We had one wedding recently, and the girl who got married was the National Player of the Year from Lawrence, the National Player of the Year volleyball player who plays professional volleyball. So these professional volleyball players come from all over the country to Lawrence, but they couldn't stay anywhere in Lawrence. And so our thought process was, we really enjoyed the renovation of the Bailey building. We learned a lot, and so as we looked at the RFP, we said we would like to give this an opportunity because we love Lawrence. We love the direction this is going in. That's why we did the current building, and so we just started looking through and decided, well, we think this is a viable project. A hotel would be really great for the city. There's so many partnerships with existing businesses in the city that this hotel can partner with, including ours, but so many others, restaurants. I mean, we've thought about using things like Stevens Cleaners to do the laundry. Just so many, the spa, just the new Capitol Theater project with PC, and obviously all the festivals and things like that. And so we started investigating and looking through. So the first thing we started with, as you can see, Hotel Lawrence, the thought process with this was, if we created this beautiful hotel, that would be a good example of what Lawrence, the city, brings. If this hotel is a very nice hotel with good reviews, it brings people in, the thought process is the city of Lawrence, the name from the hotel translates to the city. So it kind of gives visitors who come into Lawrence a good vibe of the whole city. So that's how we come up, and we talked to some marketing people. They thought Hotel Lawrence was a little more sophisticated than, say, Lawrence Hotel. So that's why that. So we've already been working with marketing people. That's one of the logos here. The name definitely wouldn't change. Could we end up with maybe a different logo, maybe, but Hotel Lawrence is definitely, and you'll see a few other logos I'll show you in the presentation, but we've already secured HotelLawrence.com and LawrenceHotel.com, different domain names. But ultimately, the thought was, again, just this would be really good for the city. And we felt like the city would be better served having folks who live here in our community develop the hotel versus maybe someone from the outside who maybe they wouldn't maybe put the same love into it that I thought April and I might do. So that's the logo. So this is, we had some renderings done. They were done very quickly, so some of the design may change. Now, the good news is this building already has a beautiful facade, and as the mayor was saying, it's a 38-room hotel. So you have 38 rooms of revenue to support the capital cost of the hotel renovations and then the operating budget. So when we're looking at this project, we're not going to spend a ton of money on the outside. Thankfully, it's already beautiful. You can see a little awning covering there. We've even thought maybe that would extend out and maybe connect to those columns, as you can see there. We'll do something different with the front doors and, of course, do some additional landscaping, but a lot of the front's going to look very, very similar to the way it looks now. This is just a closer up. There's some more logos that the marketing group has come up with. I think we have probably 15 logos already that they've designed. You can see sort of the same way on the Bailey building, how we have the hanging sign. I think it's sort of a classic look versus a big sign up on the corner like you know, some hotels. I don't think that this is a boutique hotel that has a certain look and kind of classical look to it. So that's kind of what we're going on. So here is sort of an interior rendering. So this hotel, again, 38 rooms, but the main area, and you'll see a floor plan here in a moment, but the main area is, so you're walking in from those front doors here, and some of it's cut off. There's even more seating that you can't see. So the thought process, you come in, and this interior is just full of seating, fireplace, lots of molding, crown molding, lots of, you can see the stone on the fireplace. To the right there is sort of like a breakfast area where you would sit at breakfast, and then the check-in at the very back. So the thought process is having a very nice area that you can come in and sit. If your family's, maybe you're renting a few rooms and your family can sit out in the lobby area. So we're just wanting them to be a very beautiful space that we think. It's sort of like if you haven't come into our building, the Bailey building, please come in anytime. So it sort of has that classic outside look with sort of a modern interior look. And that's just the same way we did the Bailey building is the thought process. We had the same group with the designers, marketing people. The same group that worked on the Bailey building is going to be the same group that works on this building, Hotel Lawrence. Just another look there with fireplace. You know, some of the furniture, the architect did the furniture, it would probably be a little more modern than this. But still, the thought process is just a very beautiful place that when you walk in, there's a little bit of a wow factor. Now, with all that being said, obviously we have to stay within a construction budget because we want the hotel to be sustainable financially well into the future. But some of this we definitely want to have a little bit of a wow factor when people come into the hotel, so it looks very nice. Just another side angle there, so you can see what the hotel looks like. And then this last one is just the interior. Oh, there we go. Sorry. So you may have seen this. The architect designed this with the RFP, and so we've looked at this. And you can see the one to the left there, you can sort of see that middle seating right dead center of that drawing to the left. That's the lobby. And you can see to the right of it, there's even more seating there. But if you look at the top floor, one thing that we're thinking that we may change on this is you see most of the rooms, it's 38 rooms. We cannot reduce the number of rooms. We need all 38 rooms. You need the revenue from 38 rooms to make it sustainable, to cover the operating budget. But one thing we're thinking of doing is that middle section, there's some seating there on the second floor is the floor plan to the right. You can see that middle section. So you can't have, by law, every hotel room has to have a window. So you can't have anything in the middle. So there's some maintenance, mechanical rooms, some seating. We're thinking about taking the right side of maybe like 4 rooms, 5 rooms that are long and extending those out a little further. If you've ever been to some big cities, you'll see this. So there'd be a bedroom at the front, like a king-size bedroom, and then in the middle would be the bathroom, and then a separate, like, sort of living room sitting area. So we're thinking about trying to make 5 of those on the right side suites and cut that middle a little bit smaller. That way we can still have 38 rooms, but maybe 5, and maybe if we can squeeze a few more, at least 5 executive suites, like 1-bedroom suites, and maybe even do some lockouts. You know, some of the hotels, they'll have the door, so if you could rent 2 rooms, you can unlock the door in the middle. So you could possibly take 2 suites and basically make a 2-bedroom suite. So if there's a large family renting it, you would have a couple of bedrooms, and then of course the sofas in the living room area would also pull out to bed. So that's some of the things that we're thinking on the design. But ultimately, the design, we're using the same architect, and so ultimately the design was very good to maximize the number of rooms you can get in there. The only thing we'd like to do is make some executive suites in there. We had thought about cutting that lobby in half, the back half where the car's parked on the backside, and seeing about turning that back half into a restaurant. We are going to look at the possibility. It would cut the lobby shorter, but then it would provide a restaurant at the hotel. And of course, the city would have another restaurant because you wouldn't have to stay at the hotel to go to the restaurant. So, and my thoughts would be more like a J. Peters type restaurant, sort of like maybe kind of like an All-American, like you get a steak, you get a burger, that kind of feel. I think downtown could use. No guarantee on that, just because we just have to look and see. I don't think we want to run a restaurant. The thought would be that we develop the spot and try to rent out that space to a potential restaurant. But that might be really the only change, but we really can't change any of the rooms. We need all 38 of the rooms to generate revenue to, you just have a certain amount of fixed cost in there that doesn't change whether you're 38 rooms or 68 rooms. There's certain fixed cost, and so the rest of it is the variable cost based on the room. So I think what we put together and what we looked through, we think is a good plan, and we're pretty excited about it. So I'll answer any questions now or at some point, but this is sort of our preliminary go at it. We're very excited. We're very excited to be a part of it and another project in the city.
Very excited about it.
What's your thought about parking?
That's a tough one. I mean, we have the parking spots around. You know, it has this pull through in the back. I don't know if we would necessarily be able to end up. There could be a chance we have to take that pull through in the back. I know the plan has it. It's such a beautiful front that you want to have people walk in the front. And of course, the back, it already has the overhang that you can pull through, but you got 38 rooms that's got to park. So we'd have to look at that. I know there's some lower level parking on the bottom, but I'm not sure with the city's needs how much we can overflow into that. So that would be something we'd have to discuss.
I think that may sort of edge on to what I would consider a contractual negotiation. Because there's some possibilities there that, let me back up by saying this. That lot goes from West Main all the way back to the railroad tracks. There's a CBW right of way there, but it's a large lot. And so I know with some of the city's future plans with the relocation of the city amphitheater to that area, additional parking would be needed. But that may be something that if you have a need and we have a need, that could be part of our executive session discussions. And then just give y'all an opportunity to ask those questions freely. I wanted in public session to have Mr. Bailey give the opportunity to present this plan, this proposal, but then I also would like for us as part of our executive session to give y'all the opportunity to delve into contractual matters, if you don't mind staying with us. All right. Any further questions?
Hope you keep the first load.
That was my favorite thing.
Well done. I see it's a very well thought process, and your enthusiasm, excitement, and really put my minds on, because when I saw this, I said, oh man, they've really done the homework thoroughly. And so here you present it to them in plans, I think, and your logo, all that is just fantastic.
And I think that the building as a whole is ideal for a hotel. I've always thought of that, even when Heritage Federal was there. It's always, because I always thought that was a beautiful building.
Everyone we've talked to about it, as we were planning through it, same excitement you're talking about. They look at it like, wow, this is fantastic. Yeah. The thought of that being a hotel versus just, stay at Hampton Inn, but it's a different look. I mean, it's just a very pretty
Very
look
different.
downtown. Yeah.
Windows and all that.
Well, it's a tremendous asset. From the city's perspective, we have a police department that will be moving out of there in the next few months. So that leaves an empty second floor, and we have a bank whose lease will be ending. And so that question, the question that then presents itself to city council is, well, then what do we do with it? So,
Well, that was my thinking on the bank. Did you say they had the option for another 5-year contract? They don't have that anymore?
they do not. They exercise an initial option to renew, and they don't have any additional option.
But I thought at one time they said they did, and I just didn't know that they didn't have that anymore. So.
That was a few years, year before last, I suppose.
So the building will be turned over to us completely to do what we want to do.
When's their option in? When's their release in?
May I revisit that question in executive session? Since it is part of a contractual legal issue.
Parking and this is in contractual issue. I hope so.
It is. Yes. Okay, any further questions on that for open session? All right. That was a very long report, and I appreciate y'all being patient, but hopefully you feel encouraged by that. Do we have anybody that signed for public comment? All right, and we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and all kind of seconds. I believe Ms. Lattimore was first. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of passage of the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. And the consent agenda is approved. Moving on to old business, we have second reading ordinance 10-22-01, which is an approval by Lawrence City Council to authorize the Commission of Public Works to pass or to obtain a bond for improvements to the electrical grid in the city substation. Do I hear any motions?
Second reading, right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Miller. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Ms. Campbell. Is there any discussion? So just to be clear, and as a reminder, it's just, we are growing, bursting, it seems, at Hunter Industrial Park, additional electrical capacity is needed in that area, and so this would allows the commission to proceed with construction out there. We have an oversight role, so we have to approve any debt that they incur. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All those in favor of passing ordinance 10-2201 on second reading, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. And ordinance is approved. Moving on, second reading of ordinance 10-22-02, which is an ordinance which authorizes the disposition of a portion of property, real property, from the city of Lawrence to Lawrence County. Is
So move, I make a motion that we approve second reading of ordinance 10-2202, authorizing the commission, us to transfer that property over to.
Thank you, Councilor Bolt. Is there a second?
Second. Trying to move
I
it
think
along.
Councilor Lauer was
Trying to
loud.
move it along, that's all, just trying to move it along.
Trying to wait till he finishes.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
I smell a long executive, I'm trying to move it along.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor of passage of 10-2202 on second reading, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Ordinance is approved. Do I hear a motion to enter executive session to discuss appointment of persons to a public body, negotiations incident to proposed contractual arrangements, and a proposed sale or purchase of property with recall into public session subject to the call of the chair? Do I hear such a motion?
I make a motion.
There's a motion, is there a second? Second. Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All those in favor of entering executive session, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. All right, we are in executive session. Everybody needs to go, go.
Can I go too?